Okay, welcome back everyone to the insane unboxing that's been going on this week. Part 1 threw up some incredible finds. You can see that right now. Go and click on the link to watch part 1. And we continue now where we see what's in the rest of the boxes and get some of these items on display in the museum. So, straight on to the next thing on the pile. It's very useful, but it's something that we do have 2 of already. It's a CRT tester, and it's all here. All the different neck attachments are in this handy case, and Holly has suggested sending this one to Adrian's digital basement, so I will leave that for her to sort out, and perhaps he'll be able to make good use of it. Jason then picks the next box, and this one isn't really suitable for the museums. We've got some game and some anime related merchandise in here, and well, there's a chance for me to be Flavor Flav. And there's some very nice things in here which will not be wasted, but they would be wasted in our museum. So, for example, there's a lovely chap called Ben who runs a shop nearby called Retrosect. It's half shop, half 80s car showroom. And some of this would be great for him. So I'll pass some of that on to him and to other people. But we will have to be selective ourselves. More things stuffed into boxes here, including an iPhone 7. I think that's a 7. It works, but it is activation locked. And there was also a 80GB iPod in amongst all of this somewhere as well. Now here's something we can all learn from. Tokimeki Memorial 3. It's a dating simulation game set in a Japanese high school. Released in 2001, so fairly early on in the PlayStation 2's life cycle. But it does have a special feature, as we discovered.
Can you smell strawberry?
Yeah. It's these. They smell of strawberries. Wow. Yes, the voices of 2 middle-aged men worried about what they might find next. Thankfully, we're back onto familiar territory next, and a box that contains a pocket Simon, always popular, and a tremendous selection of joysticks. Oh, that's a cassette vision game in there to go with the console we found earlier. And then I find a NES Advantage stick. Just needs a new foot on the bottom of that, but it'll be good to go after that. It looks fantastic. And there's a Blip handheld game that Jason finds. And more Neo Geo sticks and some Sega Saturn sticks. Really good ones too. We've got original SNK Neo Geo sticks and then 2 mid-90s third-party sticks from Hori for the Saturn. That's an instant 2-player Virtua Fighter setup if ever I saw one. An unsuspecting box next with Acer PC written on it, so I was expecting maybe an old netbook in this one. But no, it's something far more exotic. It's a 1986 Brazilian 8-bit micro. Looks like it could be a TRS-80 MC10 clone, but it's not that at all. This apparently shares hardware with a system called a GEM 1000, made in Taiwan. Very interesting. I know nothing about it other than what I've just told you, so we'll look into that. And also hiding in the same box, I found this, a Sega Saturn movie card. This allows hardware MPEG-1 decoding for video CDs, and it does also improve video playback in certain games. There was even one game apparently that required it just to run the game, but mostly Japanese games that support this thing. We've also got a stick of glue and a tub of glitter. Free to a good home. Under a Victory Lap arcade PCB that belongs to the arcade, we find, choo choo, it's a PlayStation 2 Denture to Go controller, and that's next to an Apple IIe, so let's check that out. Now the style of this Apple IIe was very different to the one that I have upstairs. It's got a numpad on it for a start, and the logo is completely different. So I looked into this, and apparently it's a Platinum IIe. Released in 1987, it was the final model Apple IIe, and it was never sold in Europe, and then it was discontinued in 1993, marking the end of the line for the Apple II. So that is the perfect bookend for an Apple II display to tell the story. What a lovely machine. Inside it looks very much like a normal Apple II with a floppy controller and the RAM expansion installed. This certainly looks exotic, but from our experience it might just be full of custard, so let's see. No, this one is what it says on the box. It's complete with cables and manuals. It's a Fujitsu FM New 7. Released in 1983, the FM7 competed with the NEC PC 8801 and the Sharp X1 apparently, and this new model came out in 1984 with the range running through to 88, and it is apparently a very capable games machine. Under the flap, it looks like a power supply is in there and 3 fairly low profile expansion slots. Very easy to get to, I like that design. We then found a 98 Note, which is an NEC PC 98 laptop, which is really exciting if I can figure out how to open it. But what has happened here? Now this absolutely stank of acetone and the screen has kind of melted, so we can kind of guess what's happened here. That's not to say we can't test it with an external monitor, keyboard and mouse, and perhaps it could be the basis of some form of display, closed up but operating with the external peripherals. So it's not a lost cause, and maybe one day we'll find a replacement screen. It's the bit where I talk about PCBWay.com, the place to go for PCBs, design services, CNC milling, 3D printing, whatever you need for your project. You'd be out of your box not to go to PCBWay.com. And now I've got another 15 seconds or so to talk about PCBWay.com to fulfill my obligation to them. So let's get back to the video now. The next box revealed some nice Famicom disc games, and we're building up quite a nice collection of these. Can you see any that you recognise? Please let me know in the comments. And these as new conditioned boxed Apple II spinners made by the Keyboard Company. They look pristine, don't they? Beautiful things. The Apple II game ports are actually inside the case. You had to route the cables in and plug these directly into the system board, and they came with a 90-day warranty. I think I'll probably keep them in the box and put them on display as is. A big well-packed box now. What's it hiding in it? It's a system, and it is a gorgeous Sharp X1. Now this is the precursor to one of my personal favourites, the Sharp X68000, and the keyboard is in the box there too. I mentioned this system just a few minutes ago as a competitor to the FM7, and here it is, as if by magic. A museum display presenting itself one box at a time. And in the very same box, an NEC PC98 desktop computer to complement that damaged laptop. That's a really great looking machine. Well, they both are, just look at them side by side, they're beautiful. It's nice to be able to show more micros and not just consoles in our Japanese displays now, because it is quite console centric. From historic Japanese systems to a box now containing something from the US. A Telegames Pong. Now this was the first home Pong console that Atari made. It was marketed and sold by retailer Sears as a Telegames Pong in 1975, and Atari would then release their own branded home Pong in 76 following the success of this one. And also in that box were several Acertronic consoles, and Acertronic was a subsidiary of UK retailer Dixon's, so this was a very British attempt at a budget console in 79. And there were plenty of cartridges to go with this one too. So that's Japan, the UK and the USA in quick succession coming out of these boxes. And I found the original instructions for Pong also. That is priceless to go alongside the console. Now, do you remember the Apple Pippin we found in part 1? Well, a joypad appeared in this box. It's not the black one that would have originally come with that model, but I'm very happy to find this with his little trackball. Perhaps the largest item of all comes out of this box. It's a brown and beige slab. It's made by NEC, and what a beautiful slab it is. It's a PC8801. So incredibly, we now have the FM7, the X1 and the PC8801 to display side by side just minutes after talking about that generation. A generation of Japanese systems that defined the microcomputer landscape there. And what a story we can now tell with these. I also love the brown and beige keyboard on this too. And I'm so excited about finding it. I've hardly shown you the Acorn Archimedes A3000 behind it there. That was also in the box. Look at those huge expansion ports on the back. This is a serious machine. Another box now, and there's an official PlayStation SCART cable in there, and you'll also notice a lot of hard-off price labels on them, which is a chain of second-hand stores in Japan. So someone has done some serious thrifting, as our American friends call it, to build up this collection. Likewise, there's a PlayStation memory card in a blister pack there, a minty green colour. And we're into day 2 at this point of the unboxing, helped by all, but mostly joined by Jason, who's been having as much fun as I have going through it all. And there's not many more to get through now, so let's see what we find before heading up to the cave. Holly's back now, and she's found a sealed Tamagotchi. That's dated 1997. These came out in November 96, so I think that's one of the originals. Maybe someone watching can confirm for me. And yes, I did own one back in the day. I think I had a green one. It didn't last very long. Casually dumped down the side of this box, I spot a Game Boy Micro. The red and gold model, that's the Famicom 20th anniversary edition. That shouldn't be in a box like that. They are lovely things, and that should be really taken care of. This might be the first N-Gage game we own. A Gizmondo.
Oh, God. Gizmondo.
This is a fun box. Is that sticky?
Is it? Oh, yes. Oh.
And this is a Puru or Jump Pack, a vibration pack for the Dreamcast joypad. And then there's a selection of LCD, handheld and tabletop games in here from various manufacturers. A Play and Time, not a Game and Watch, Vulture game. And there's the Nokia N-Gage, we found that too, so I can try out the game with it. Holly then finds a Game.com. That's a 1997 handheld from Tiger Electronics. There was also a modem attachment for that, and you could check your emails on it apparently. There's a Sunwing branded boxed LCD game, and that's Submarine, that game. And then earlier we saw a Play and Time, and now we've got a Time and Fun, a VTech LCD game, also chasing Nintendo's Game & Watch successes. There's also...
There's a
How'd you say that, Holly?
Chan.
Fuko-chan. We found this 1982 game about a cat protecting cheese from mice, and a Tomy Hello Kitty LCD game continuing the cat theme. And then this, Lupin, a Tomy tabletop game that we don't have in our collection, so that's a nice addition. And finally, we got to the big wooden box. Now, my instincts were that this was probably going to be everything else piled in at the last minute because everything had to be cleared. But it's been such a bizarre unboxing, who knows? So let's crack it open. Well, I can already see something cool, and that's Seaman for the Dreamcast, a bizarre game in which you have to keep the Seaman creature alive using a microphone controller attachment, and it all appears to be complete in the box. Also of interest is this NEC data recorder. It's got an upright cassette design, I quite like that. And I wonder if it's designed to work with that PC8801 we found earlier. It's got the same kind of brown and beige styling. A really nice design. A bag of Spectrum stuff next, that's always exciting. Unless that Spectrum stuff is broken bits of Game Boy cartridges. Moving on. A sealed GTA San Andreas soundtrack CD collection. That's quite fun. Then we find a Video Master home TV game which seems to use metal balls that you position on top of the console to keep score on your games. You really wouldn't want your opponent to rage quit with a heavy metal ball in their hand, that's for sure. And, well, there was a lot of packing in this crate, shall we say. A few fun things, but largely it went on the pile for more relevant recipients than us to take on. Until we got right down to the bottom, that is. And we did find some nice Japanese gaming magazines in here. These were from the mid to early 90s. And while I couldn't read them, there were lots of familiar looking games in them. And then we found a box of Japanese Xbox and Xbox 360 games, as well as a bonus Neo Geo Pocket game in there. These all seem to be Japanese editions of games that I'm quite familiar with looking at the boxes, including, of course, FIFA, and they're all in really good condition. After the 2 days of sorting them, we were more than happy. We were delighted. Yes, it took 4 people and 2 hire vans and a trip to London, and yes, it was a big risk with the little communication we had and the time we had to do it in, but it worked out really well for everyone. The former owner had his warehouse cleared and could catch his flight, and we had lots of new things for both museums. All neatly organised by Jason, the items I could immediately put on display, I gathered up in a kind of supermarket sweep style grab from the rack, and the rest we put into boxes for photographing, inventory processing and organising into future displays, while very importantly clearing out the garage again because we've got such a big build project to do in here. I didn't want to clutter it up with all of my things. So I set up a cleaning station on the Saturday. We were open on the Saturday so visitors could pop in and say hello to me while I was working through them. I'm just scrubbing a Pong there, getting that nice and clean. And yes, I tested the afterburner, and look, that does work brilliantly. And then it was time to inventory, process, asset tag, and take them into the museum itself for display. And I've talked a lot over these last 2 videos, so I'm just going to let the video speak for itself for a while here. This is what we love doing. This is what I love doing especially. Saving this stuff from sheds, garages, warehouses, attics, and documenting it and inviting others to come and enjoy it in our museums. Some of these are in glass cabinets now. In time, some will get a video, some will come out on special occasions for people to try out. Others, which are more robust, they can be played more frequently, but all can be enjoyed in one form or another. And this is just a small part of the donation. I've got plenty more to process and a lot more that I'd like to put on display now. I hope you've enjoyed these unboxings. If you'd like to visit us, support us or contact us, go to retrocollective.co.uk and also take a moment to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.